What's going on, guys? It's Bahroo and Gothalion, and we are back here in the Borderlands to $100,000 loot hunt, and we are literally neck deep in this sumbitch. But we got some issues with what's been going on as far as balancing.
Yeah, it's just I've been in the fridge for most of the day taking out these field rats, and I do the community goal every day, and the more I do it, I feel like it's just not even worth the time investment. For example, the creamer, was the weekly goal, literally doing nothing special.
Yeah, I kind of expected the end of the week goal and the end of the week reward to get an upgrade. I mean, besides the point that the daily upgrades have been at most irrelevant, even redundant at points. An example, when they upgraded bandit pistols and gave them a bigger magazine, because that's exactly what bandit weaponry needed, was a bigger magazine. Then the next day they gave the Gub a bigger magazine yet again, and I felt like that served no purpose.
Yeah, I didn't understand like a couple of the buffs. On this website originally, the tinderbox was going to get accuracy, which is something that bandit desperately needs. That's the reason that people don't use it, is because they're so inaccurate. But after that change went through, they removed it and instead, as you said, gave it more mag size. And I understand, like Randy said, these changes aren't really centered towards the min-maxers, but at the same time, you want them to be mildly useful.
Yeah, I feel like the average gamer really isn't getting a lot of use out of these changes, and I mean, no disrespect to Gearbox. I love the game, and they've done a good job with it, and done a great job supporting it after launch, but I almost feel like they, at times, don't understand all the mechanics there within because of these upgrades that the weapons have gotten that have just been, like I said, irrelevant.
Exactly. Like, one of the main problems I have is they seem to be they're picking guns obviously to increase the popularity of it. Bandit isn't exactly the go-to manufacturer, which is understandable. It's, people don't like it, you buff it, but the end of the week goal for week 2 is the fastball of all things. It's literally the worst legendary grenade in the game, and asking us to work towards that just seems downright pointless.
Yeah, unless they were to actually give it a legitimate upgrade. I feel like, going back to the point on the creamer, they missed a golden opportunity to really make it viable, to bring it up to even like the levels of, say, like a Nukem. They could have very easily done that. Or even closer to maybe even the Norfleet. So the Norfleet's not the only real viable, amazing rocket launcher at the end of the game, but they missed the boat on that, and I'm not resentful about it, but it makes me question what's going on here.
Right. Like a few things they could have done, obviously, increase the healing that it does, increase the damage. One thing that Torg desperately needs is mag size. That's somewhere they could put all those mag size upgrades they seem to keep dumping in the bandit, which, as a min-maxer, I can tell you, at a point, dumping more into the mag doesn't make the gun any better. You're just making the reload factor of it more and more insignificant, but it gets to a point where, you just reach the diminishing returns of buffing mag to increase the DPS. I feel like they should focus on what makes the guns bad rather than what their strength is. Buffing their strength isn't going to make people want to use it. They're just going to be like, oh, I have to reload less until I have to find a good Hyperion shotgun, for example.
Yeah, and touching back on mag size, I think another opportunity missed was the Bahroo, and it could have benefited amazingly from more mag size, or even another round in the burst that, what was it that got that last week?
The Hornet.
Yeah,
buff.
That would have been great.
Yeah, like playing. That's just playing to the weaknesses is what needed to be buffed, not this other thing. And to go back to the fastball and the creamer, I mean, I get it. They're making this available to all the people, everyone, but the amount of work that had to go into that, like it took 1 million loaders and 100,000 badass rags, which we almost failed on both occasions.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's pouring in a lot of work to get these end of the week rewards, and Gearbox really isn't pennying up on what should be like in Borderlands 2. It's been a general consensus of the average player, the non-min maxers, that the reward, the payout for the work in the game isn't where it should be. And I used to be one of those guys that wasn't really sure about that. I'm a big Gearbox supporter, and it's no mystery why that is. I used to moderate on their forums and this and that, but now I'm sort of feeling like, yeah, like we're getting the short end of the stick here with the amount of hours we're putting in for this event. And I know they don't have to do it, but if they're gonna do it, they might as well do it in a fashion that benefits everybody.
Exactly. And one thing that I really feel was a big missed opportunity to really get the community involved, because farming these guys is extremely tedious and extremely boring to do. But if they had added something to, say, like a leaderboard to keep track of all these kills, and people would be more interested to farm these guys for longer than just one kill. And like as it stands now, the interest from what I've seen in the thread that I've created for generating the top kills, it's just people aren't interested because they've shown that their work is not being rewarded.
Yeah, that goes back to the whole the lack of reward for time put in, and it seems to be a common issue since the start of Borderlands 2, and it doesn't appear to be getting any better. And I really had hoped that the Gearbox would seize the day on this. I had a lot of hope for it, and unfortunately it's not working out that way. And like I personally go into the daily community goals now, and I kind of feel like, why, after the whole Creamer not getting an upgrade? Had the Creamer gotten an upgrade, even an okay upgrade, then I would feel more apt to be involved more and more for these community goals. But it feels like, what are we working towards at the end of the week? There is no point, because we're going to get our daily upgrades regardless. And if the weapons at the end of the week don't get an upgrade, then what's the point of even doing these community goal targets?
That's just it. There is no point. Once we get rid of the actual reward, I mean, yeah, there is the whole, chance to win, like, actual physical items, but you've got that's only the US. That's not anywhere else. And I mean, like, that's nothing against Gearbox. Like, I know it's legal issues, but there's really no incentive for those guys that can't take part in that to really do anything. And as far as the people who are participating in it, it's like entering the lottery with how many people are entering. You're not going to win at all.
Millions of people are entering to win these actual physical items and the cash prizes, and again, it kind of alienates the people outside the US. There's legal issues, yes, and I feel like the people outside of the US would feel less alienated if these weapon upgrades were more relevant and they really played on the weaknesses of the weapons. Like I said, the Bahroo could use a bigger magazine. The damage increase was nice on it. What was the percent on the damage increase, Bahroo?
I haven't really quite looked at the numbers, but it's fairly insignificant.
Okay, but a bigger magazine size would definitely help, and another round in the burst would probably actually be more beneficial than the damage increase. Because let's face it, at endgame, if you're using a gun, a lot of the time you're using the B.
Right, because yeah, they're not balancing the game around the B, but these guys have so much health. It just doesn't work. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can use that don't require the B, but that's not what they're buffing. They're buffing the things that need the B, and they're buffing attributes of it that don't really matter.
Yeah.
Critical, giving dull ARs suffer greatly from the lack of full critical bonus. That's why SMGs reign supreme at all times. It would have been a great opportunity to add critical bonus to the Varrock, because it only gets 66%, not the full 100%.
That's brutal. Why did they decide to do that?
It's the way the barrels of the assault rifles are. They don't get the full bonus.
Yeah, that's crummy.
And, you know, just like, I've been looking at the actual percentages of some of these upgrades. Like, the accuracy on the Varrock went up 2%. 2%. That's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I looked at the bandit reload speed, something that they're not exactly known for. They're just known for their large mags, not exactly their reload speed. And their reload speed went up about 3 to 4%. This is not game-changing at all. I'm not saying you should make game-changing things, but if you're gonna buff it to the point where you want people to use it again outside of the community goal, you need to buff it in a way that people want to actually use it.
I feel like they could have maybe even tightened the spread on the Varrock, and that would have made it a lot more useful. Like, you can use it from a distance, but, you know, they didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities with this whole loot hunt thing. And from what I've seen on the forums, like the amount of views things are getting, the amount of interaction that things are getting, it's kind of like dying off, because people are seeing, like, week 1, like I said, they hit us with 1 million gun loaders. That's a large number. It took us till like 4 a.m. in the morning to actually finish that goal. And when people see that on the first week, they just like, why? And that was on a Monday too, I believe.
Yeah, that was midweek while people were in school. So, you know, what I'm really looking for is all the other gamers out there, you know, our communities, the Borderlands 2 community, to get together and sound off in comments here, sound off in Twitter, do it respectfully, head to the forums, leave a comment, even go to the Gearbox support page and leave some support tickets, saying that you don't feel like these updates to the weapons are truly relevant, and you don't feel like you're being rewarded for, like, frankly, the tedious job and tasks that we've been given for these daily community goals. These daily community goals should feel like we are pulling together as a community for Borderlands to get a goal that is worth getting. That's why it is a goal. It's not a community teaspoon of milk. You know, it should be, this is like, here, you want this, you should want to work for this as a group. But after last week, I don't feel like anybody feels that way, especially overseas.
Especially overseas, definitely. And like I said, the fastball as a thing, why not do that with the Stormfront? That's one of the most sought after grenades, and people would want that because, like, I get they want to make people use different items like the fastball, but if you change the item of the day to something that people want, say like a Norfleet, a Herald, a Stormfront, something that people actively farm for, they're going to put in the effort because they want those items. Even if the daily item is a piece of shit, like, they want the end of the week goal. And another thing is, touching back on what you said, make sure that when you contact Gearbox, be respectful about it. If you go on there and full target with caps lock yelling about your game is terrible, they're never going to respond to this.
No, they're just gonna assume that those problems. So those tickets are just immature, hateful, and really ignore them. And Randy Pitchford told me that himself over Twitter, that if you're respectful, then it's something they actually read and take to heart. But if you run in there being frankly an asshole, then you're not going to get the response you want. And I would suggest like maybe sending in tickets telling Gearbox what you might have changed as far as the stats that did get updated, or what you would change in the upcoming weekly goal. What would you add to the fastball? It's not the greatest grenade. It's the worst. No, I'll go back. It's the worst legendary grenade. So what could be added to the fastball to make it actually relevant in game?
One of the best ones would be a slag ball. Like, add an element to it. We know that, like, you could alter things to not behave in the way that normal guns and items do. For example, the Twister, a shock Jacob's gun. You don't have to follow that rule set that they have set for themselves. So a slag-only fastball, that way people have just on-demand slag. Like, there's always the slag Bonnie, but you know, a slag fastball would at least be a step in the right direction to an otherwise mediocre item.
Shit, I want a melee fastball.
Even then, like, what about a fastball that is based on Roid?
Oh god, my ninja is drooling at the thought of that.
But we've been covering pretty much all that we can really go over without just rehashing the same thing. So I feel like we've sort of made our point with this sort of dual commentary here. Any last words, Gothalion?
Yeah. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys back in the loot hunt.
Later, guys.